This is the Superconscious Sisterhood and Friends podcast. We are a group of female coaches working with women from all over the world. We work with our clients to help them create a life they love, become the predominant creator in their own reality, step into their true nature and purpose, and live in health and vitality. In this podcast, I talk all things superconscious with the other coaches, and sometimes I'll have guests too. Join us as we talk personal development, hormones, motherhood, and anything else in between that comes up in the moment. So this week, I have the blimmin' marvellous Galit with me, who is just amazing. And we are going to talk a little bit about assumptions and where they get us and where they don't get us. I think that's the good summary of it.
So good. That's all that was really needed to be said.
Yeah, that's it. I'm finished. Okay.
Well, we picked this topic because our assumptions are literally manifesting for us. We don't really realize how important they are.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I heard a great quote recently from a friend of mine, and she said, whatever you think, whatever you assume, you're always right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. You're always right. It's so funny because we always have this voice, inner voice telling us we're wrong, we're wrong, we're wrong. But we're always right because what we assume is what we manifest because we manifest with our focus.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess those assumptions, they come from that childhood time between 0 and 7 years where you're learning about the world and you're deciding how it works and what it is. And then you just take that for the rest of your life. Crazy, really, but
True. I would say think about what you assume about all sorts of things about your life that you assume that it might be difficult, that you have to struggle. And these
yeah,
assumptions, they're like this invisible code that is underneath our thoughts and the choices that we make. The choices that we make have to do with underlying assumptions, yes, that are formed in childhood, and then they just get repeated. And because they are repeated, they just reinforce the assumption. And since our focus creates reality, we just have the validation that, yes, we were right. It was
yeah.
hard. It is going to be difficult. It is a challenge. It is a frustration.
Those people will always let me down. I will always be treated such and such a way. Nothing ever works out for me. Yeah, all of those things. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, not only when do you have the events that keep happening that reinforce what the ego is telling you, you have the moments where you had a bad situation or something happened to you, and you keep thinking it over and over and over and over and replaying it in your head. Every time you focus on replaying what happened in your head, again, you're writing that assumption into, that really fixed state, aren't you?
Yeah, you get what you assume, right? Like it's
Yeah,
hard to make money doing what I love. Like you can't make money and doing what you love at the same time. Or healing takes a long time. Or I
yeah,
always get hurt in relationships.
yeah. Or I have to be fully healed before I can go for anything that I truly love. Or I have to lose weight, or I have to look a certain way, or I have to have all of these skills first before I even start to learn or attempt. And it's funny, really, because when you're a little kid, when you're like 18 months old and you're learning to walk, you don't think, oh, I need to have done this, this, and this before I can start. You just start learning and you're encouraged to as well. You just start
That's
doing
so
it
true.
and you fall down
So
and you try again. And if only we had that same resilience that you have as a child throughout the rest of our lives, everybody would be doing things all the time and trying new things and keep going for the things that they want rather than sort of allowing fear and assumptions to paralyze them because they.
That's so true. I mean, yeah, when you compare it to a young child, they're not being perfect. They're not waiting for it to be perfect. They just go for it. Like if they
Yeah,
keep falling, they're not saying, I'm going to fall for the rest of my life when I learn how to walk, when I learn things. So I might as well just give up learning how to walk because
yeah, damn that. Why bother?
I keep
Sorry.
falling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I feel like assumptions can be really detrimental to who you are as a person, especially the older you are, the more of those assumptions are really ground in and kind of rigid and set. And but it is good because it doesn't mean that those assumptions have to be forever. If you know what the patterns are and you start looking at them. So it's not all bad, but yeah, it's fascinating how our mind, or part of our mind, it allows that to happen. That you know, oh, I'm running out of battery. Yeah, it's like almost like an enabler. But I bet you, sorry to keep talking, I bet you that whole you know, subconscious, unconscious, sorry, the way that that's formed, I bet you that was when we were, gatherer hunters and we're in a dangerous environment all the time because you have to learn quickly what the dangers are.
Yeah.
And you have to remember those for the rest of your life. So I wonder if it's very much linked to your amygdala.
Yeah, it's like the fight flight response. It's, yeah, through the primitive brain, it's automated. So we don't really have to think about it. And that's why it's an underlying assumption that we're not aware of, but it does become a part of our identity. So that's a really good point. And that identity that we live through dictates our assumptions. It becomes who we are, and that creates our emotional set point and the filters that we see life through. And then because of that, it affects the actual life decisions that we make,
Yeah,
and also the structure that we're in. It's really about, if we're talking about working through the superconscious, to, instead of just being on autopilot with our underlying assumptions, like you say, once you become aware, and even, well, when we work through the superconscious, you don't really even have to become aware and know what they are because your superconscious already knows. So when
yeah,
we do work through our superconscious recode, we tap through the superconscious that already knows it all, it's all knowing. So for your highest good, we just let go of the underlying assumptions that don't serve your highest good. And then instead of having to keep holding that assumption that it's effort, that you have to hustle and struggle, you learn also, we teach you about structure, right? So
yeah.
if you're in the right structure, you don't have to make the effort.
Yeah, because if you're in the right structure, what it is that you desire, or your creation, that will be magnetized towards you, rather than you keep swinging back and forward in that oscillating pattern.
Yeah, and the superconscious recode, it collapses your old identity, those assumptions, and then helps you instill new ones that are aligned with what you want to manifest. So,
Yeah,
what we call a true choice. So, structure always wins every
yeah,
time, and those assumptions are just old patterns that they're not your truth. They're just
yeah.
learned assumptions. or passed down assumptions.
Yeah, because there's some of the see, it's almost like you have some assumptions that are from your family history and the way that your family behave around you and pass on to you subconsciously without even knowing sometimes. And then there's the assumptions that you form yourself from the behaviors and the things that happen to you. And then those assumptions form the structure that you think that you need to live within, and you don't try any different way of doing things, or you just keep doing things exactly the same way, as
Yeah,
you like.
assumptions are like a part of our core belief systems, and
Yeah,
core beliefs generate our assumption of reality and then create that confirmation bias, right? What we assumed isn't part of our belief system, and then we see it everywhere. It's
yeah.
it's but
No,
it's not about the
my hair's in.
circumstance. What's
Yeah,
that?
no, I was saying, oh, sorry, I was just itching my eye because my hair went in it. You're totally right. It really is. And the assumptions as well, they are, oh, I can't remember exactly what I was going to say about it, but it's something to do with how uh, we have those assumptions. We do things a certain way. Oh, yeah, I know what it was. Sorry, my brain's a bit thin today. Um, when we go to a place like a new job or something like that, or we meet other people and we meet someone and they look a certain way, like similar to someone we've met before in the past, and then they say a few things, and then we just, more often than not, this happens with a lot of people as well. People just, make judgments or observations about that person within the first 30 seconds or whatever, and then
Mm.
that will link to assumptions of I've been bullied in the past, or I've been treated like this in the past, so that's definitely going to happen again. And in the subconscious layer, this might not even be an obvious thought. And then as you go through the situation, those sort of behaviors or what you perceive are those behaviors come up. And then you think, ah, I am being treated like that, and this is, discrimination or whatever it is. And then the more that you think that, and the more that you think that you're being treated unfairly, the bigger it gets. And then you really believe, oh, this is it, they're treating me unfairly, and you don't see it any other way because you almost like dug yourself into that hole of belief. So
That's true. And then you just show up in that vibration of someone who's a victim.
yeah,
If
yeah, exactly.
you have a belief system that you're a victim of this type of person, you're going to show up, you're going to assume, automatically prejudge that, pre-assumptions, right? That you are going to be a victim of this person. And then somehow your energy emits literally a field, and you become like this target, even if this person had no intention, but it's almost like your energy set it up.
Yeah, it's almost like your energy is saying, yeah, yeah, I am the one to be bullied, so bully me, even though that's not what you want. But
Yeah,
but
because
it's
there's
like it's almost like we all fall into those roles, don't we? When
the role.
yeah,
There's like people, like you could be with your friend who is might be a similar age, same gender, and they aren't the target, but you are, because
yeah,
they don't have that belief and they don't see it in the same way, and they always get what they want, and so that's what they're going to assume. And somehow
mm,
they have a completely different experience of that interaction.
yeah, exactly. They like see it from a completely different a different view. It's like years ago, I read this book around different philosophies of how people see the world. And I can't remember the full details of it, but one of the, I think it was Irving Hoffman, and it was like the importance of every day or something. I can't remember exactly. It was when I was studying. It was like 20 plus years ago. It's a long time ago. And my point is this, that one of the parts of the book, which I found was really fascinating and really resonated with me, was that if I say to you, imagine a table, your idea of the table will be completely different. I mean, it will be similar in structure, but it might be that the image that you see will be totally different to what I think when I say someone says, imagine a table. And and that's everything is formed on our experience and what we absorb and we see in the world, and then that forms part of our identity. And then we use that then to make decisions and take action or not take action.
Well, it sounds like that book, even though it was 20 years ago, it's so timely. As
Yeah,
humans, we haven't changed that much because we still run unconscious um, assumptions, right? We're
yeah.
still running that. So if you mention a table, you're like, what can you get out of this example? But when I think of a table, I think of my earliest formation of table. And then I think of my father, who, when I was young, ordered some furniture. He bought some, he was really into teak and like Norwegian or
Oh,
Swedish teak wood. Was it Norwegian? And so he was really into that sort of modernist furniture. And I remember he bought a coffee table and he bought all these pieces that had these, I want to say Norwegian.
was it like tea plan? I love tea plan.
I don't know, we lived in Israel, right? But so we were really influenced by European fashion, music, things like that. And therefore, everything kind of was modern design with minimalist lines, minimalist furniture. So when I think of table, of how it needs to be solid wood,
Mm.
yet minimalist, not clunky, yet strong but clean. And therefore your vision of a table might be completely different, something old, Victorian, passed
Yeah, yeah.
down. That's
Or
so
pine
interesting.
or something, like the thick pine with the bolts and things. And at any time you ask that, because there's so many variations of tables, you might come up with something different in your mind, all the time. But the main point of it, I think, is that everyone, when asked that question, is going to picture something different. Even though we're all connected by the field, we're still going to have our own variations of something that are formed by, the part of us that is more grounded and living the experience. I think, would you say the ego is like that? Is like a grounded part of you that's more, it's more in the human experience every day. Um,
Oh, yeah, completely. Our ego needs to know how it is because it's based on surviving, not thriving. The ego
yeah,
needs to belong, how to stay safe, how to fit in, how to get your needs met. But on a
yeah,
superconscious level, all our needs are met. And it doesn't matter what others think, as long as we just follow our heart's desire and be ourselves and
mm,
just see the world through love and goodness. Of course, that not everybody is good, you know. I think everybody inherently good, but I think that people have been led to assume that to fear each other, and then everybody puts on their guard, and then you lose trust and all that. So that is built, and that creates assumptions about each other. And those
yeah,
create strong emotions like fear or love. But if we take that emotion plus that assumption that we just naturally tend to have without being aware of the emotions and the assumptions that exist, it's always going to manifest. So either we're going to be aware of our emotions plus our assumptions, or if we become aware, then we can shift them. Then we can go, oh, boy, I have this strong fear and I'm assuming that it's going to turn out bad.
Yeah.
And there's no on off to manifesting. We're manifesting. So it's really important to be aware of both those things working together because they manifest really fast.
Yeah, they do. It's like the other day, my sister had an interview and she was really worried about it that she wasn't going to get it. And she kept saying, "Oh, I didn't get it. I'm sure I didn't." And I said, "Yeah, but what is it that you want? What is the outcome you want?" So imagine you getting that outcome rather than obsessing over all of the details and analyzing what happened, because that's not actually going to help you in this moment. You're just going to be worrying about it.
Okay.
And then that anxiety leads to fear. Fear leads to sort of feelings of hate and yeah, so it's just that refocusing and then if you're in that place where, and even if I would say, well, go one further, and rather than hoping that you're going to get this outcome, imagine what it's like to get that outcome, all of the great stuff that come with it, but then imagine what it's like not to get that outcome and feel happy either way with either, and then that's a better place to be, because you're
Yeah,
not going to have a fallout if it doesn't actually uh, manifest in the way that you are hoping.
true. You're right. Because I like when you said that both are good outcomes. If you don't get it, it means something better's on the way.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
for you, you
Exactly.
have to believe in divine timing of things, divine intervention. And when you shift your energy, the right thing does come.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost like the universe says, okay, well, you didn't get that, but I know that you're working on connecting more with your higher self and your inner sort of source power. So, but we do have something else that's coming soon. So rather than allow not getting it to be, this is the thing that makes me go, right, that's it, I'm never applying again, I'm not doing it again, and I'm gonna, let myself be really sad and devastated about it. You have to think, well, what was the lesson or the good outcome that's actually come from that? Because it could be that you get that job and you go there and the people are awful and the job's awful, and there's actually someone else that needs your contact or help out there that you're supposed to meet. And everything is, we do have choice, but there is still, I think, a there is an amount
Assumption.
of timing, divine timing. There is, I feel like there is a path still for you, an end goal that you're supposed to reach, but we do have choice as well. It's almost
We
like we
always have free
can
will.
choose how we get there.
Yeah, we always have free will. And it's like referring back to the baby, like the baby that, fell when he was learning how to walk. So it's the same thing. You didn't get that job. What, you're never going to get another job again because
Yeah, that's it.
you
All jobs
had
are
to.
closed to you now.
Yeah, and what's the assumption there that becomes your reality?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And all it does really is just allow those little niggly thoughts that tell you that you're not good enough or you're rubbish and you're a failure and no one wants you. It just allows those thoughts to be
Assumptions.
affirmed, and then you continue in that depressive state of where you tell yourself that you're just not as good as other people, blah blah blah. And the truth is there's like a billion people walking around thinking exactly the same about themselves anyway, so we can't all be just absolutely rubbish. It's not true.
You're
it's
right.
we're so hard on ourselves.
It's just an unconscious program, and that is the ego you speak of. When we just let that go, and luckily, when we do that in our sisterhood or when we do
Yeah,
our recode, we just let that all dissolve so you can really focus on the truth that you're an energy being and you are enough in all ways. And
yeah,
that's really
yeah,
let those
exactly.
old assumptions
You
fall
you
away
are.
and you new assumptions. You just choose to shift and create new assumptions. And that's why I love working with energy and frequency, the frequency
Mm.
machine. Actually, I want to play a frequency for
Yes,
us.
tell me more about it. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Flower of Life, actually, the graphics on
Yeah,
the thing behind you. You know, the
it
way
does
that all of
create
the lines overlap and stuff. It's really pretty. I
it
wish I
does
had one here.
create it creates a
Make it one day.
yeah, it creates a toroidal field.
Oh, like your natural energy system does. I'm really into sacred geometry. I absolutely love it. And I was watching the series that Robert Gilbert did on Gaia, and he talks about creating your own toroidal energy field with like how you're doing your breathing. So he gets you to sort of breathe up, put your hands up, bring them down, and then imagine the energy flowing all around you and stuff. And afterwards, you just feel really amazing. And I have other meditations where the practitioners have really get into that, imagining the flow of energy through all of your chakras. Your what was the proper word for the chakra column? Shumshra? I can't remember. Do you know
Well,
shum something?
well, I'm actually going to play the Schumann resonance right now
Ah,
because
that's
these
it. Schumann. Oh,
frequencies.
Schumann is in the Schumann resonance as the Shumrasa, I think, was the thing, the chakra
Well,
lineage. The Schumann resonance, obviously, that's the planet Earth.
yes, that's Earth's
Yeah.
natural rhythm. And okay, so it does create a toroidal field. It's light therapy, scalar therapy, PMF therapy, and it also has crystal resonance therapy. And I got involved with this company, and we can add the link if anyone wants to learn more. I help people get these. There's different
Oh
ones too,
yeah.
like there's smaller ones, but I help people get involved and actually even open whole wellness centers with them because it's the
Oh,
future.
amazing. Yeah.
It's
I really
energy.
am I'm really into frequency healing, and I have a Rife machine as well, which I really like.
So this
Um
is also a life. It has all
yeah,
the
it's
right.
like that, but just a more fancy version. And sometimes I just listen to frequencies as well, like on the
Oh,
that somebody's written. And I
exactly.
feel like there's definitely something in it. And I feel like in the next 10, 20 years, we really are going to branch out more into sound therapy as part of healing people.
It's already
Um,
here.
and the truth is, thousands and thousands of years ago, sound healing was used for people. That's why you've got places like the Hypogeum in Malta that is specifically acoustically built to resonate at certain sounds. And there's other buildings, amazing like temples and things. They all have
All the
this
old churches
perfect
around you.
acoustic.
The
Hmm?
old churches where you live, all the old churches around
Yeah,
where
and
you live.
churches as well. They're all you can see loads of programs about it where they're like testing the frequencies and stuff. They're all built specifically to, generate this healing energy and stuff. So yes, it's fascinating. There's so much knowledge that we as modern day humans we're not as in touch with as our ancestors were. But we're
We're
starting to get
relearning.
more in touch with that, I
Yeah,
think.
I think so. I think we're
Definitely.
relearning.
Yeah, we are relearning. We are relearning, and in the last sort of 2, 3 years, I've really got into looking up loads of stuff around ancient architecture, sound healing, Reiki, and obviously this work, which I really love, and then epigenetics, the stuff that Joe Dispenza does. I feel like there's so much power in the mind, the heart, the connection to the universe, that can really heal the natural body, you know. It's like that when people give you a when you know when they do blind tests with drugs and stuff, and the people that get the placebo, they still heal or get the effects because they believe it's going to work.
Well,
And
as
but
Joe
then
Dispenza
I
said.
think, yeah, I think it's a little bit of that, but then it's also like the frequencies and the Reiki and whatever, they do actually work as well. It's like a bit of,
Well, that's what we do. What we do in our group. We do what Joe Dispenza does, but a lot
yeah,
faster. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, we do that
shortcut.
work. Yeah, and I know because I've had quite a lot of self-healing through that mag mind work, and then through I've been using Rife and whatever as well, and all kinds of stuff. So I feel like it is so powerful. And I'm sure as we go through our podcast, we'll probably touch upon it more, the different experiences that we've had personally with the work. Thinking about what we're talking about today, though, assumptions, if you were talking to someone outside of here, which I guess you are because hopefully they're listening, what would you say? What's the one thing you would say to people when they are making assumptions that are leading them to a place of not happiness all the time? Like how would they
Yeah,
change? How would they shift their assumptions? Um,
good
Apart from
question.
obviously doing work with with us, how does one
Question.
do that? I mean, I know, but how do we explain that to someone?
Yeah, I love that. I would say, well, first of all, I turned this on. I was going to say that people can quantum entangle with this machine as they're listening to um, this particular, um, even if they don't hear it, they can quantum entangle with it and experience it. It's also sound therapy. It is connected to a speaker.
Yeah.
Um, Here, I'll just,
I just
it's a,
love it. It's so ancient and sacred geometry looking in the way that the weaves happen across with the coils and stuff. It's
yeah, it's
just
a
I just
very powerful unit. It's therapy grade unit, and yeah. So just
yeah,
for the listeners, if they want to choose to entangle with the frequency that's playing, especially if you're sensitive to energy, you will feel it and you will feel something. But
yeah,
to answer your question, it's such a good question, is how do I change my assumption? And one recommendation I have is if you think of one assumption that no longer serves you, like if there's something that you would really love to have, maybe it's more money, maybe it's a loving relationship, maybe somewhere that you feel like that just doesn't happen for me. Well, there's that assumption that just doesn't happen for
yeah,
me, right? For some reason. What is that reason that you believe that you can't just have that, or that it takes too long, right? Assumptions about time, or that it's too late, that you're not worthy enough, or however it is that the assumption about why you simply can't just have what you want as fast as possible, like
yeah,
that. Because manifestations happen quickly, especially as we are in the new paradigm, the new paradigm shift, the new timeline on this
mhm,
elevated Earth's consciousness. Manifestations happen much quicker when we're rising from those lower levels, lower densities where things are easier to attract. Therefore, knowing your assumptions are very crucial right now for looking at them and just realizing the assumption and what you can do without even having to do any process.
mm.
You can just take that assumption, write it down, and then you could just cross it off and
Yeah,
then be
and you could,
deliberate with
oh,
a new assumption.
yeah,
And that
exactly.
is,
And if you wanted to get really technical about it, because I know some people like to fact check and stuff, you could say, okay, well, this is my assumption, but what actually makes that true? What actually proves that to be true? And what proves it not to be true? And I bet you'd find loads of stuff that proves it not to be true as much as the stuff that you might think, oh yeah, that's definitely true. So you could do it that way as well. And I was just thinking earlier, I was thinking if people like Tesla and Einstein and Da Vinci and all of the amazing thinkers of our time had always just stuck with their assumptions and never thought, let's think outside the box and see what is in the realms of possible, then we wouldn't have half of the creations that we have today, you know.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's not always good to just stick with what you assume in your mind is the truth, because
Well,
great things come from thinking outside of that.
everything that was ever created was created through creativity and allowing to receive through imagination, not through assumption. So
Yeah.
if you're just assuming, you're not really imagineering anything new, because the assumptions, they just dip down to the unconscious of what the unconscious knows, which is quite rigid and limited, and that's an old assumption. But if you just cross out your old assumption, and like you said, what makes this assumption true for me, if you look at someone else who where it's not true for them, I wonder what they assume. Do they assume the same thing I assume about this, or do they assume everything comes easily for them and that's
Yeah.
kind of what they experience?
Yeah.
Then you can just cross out, like maybe the old one might say, I always attract unavailable people, partners. But
Yeah.
if you just cross that out and you say, well, I'm available for love, and love is available to me, and the right perfect match
Yeah.
is coming, is that being attracted to me, is being magnetized to me, then
Yeah.
that's just a new assumption. And then you go about your day and you're like, wow, I'm meeting new people, and oh, I made a great connection the other day. And then there's your new assumption, and your new assumption creates your new reality.
Yeah, because it's like you're focusing on that feeling of love and allowing it, almost welcoming it in, rather than that feeling of being lonely and sad and not having it. Because the more you think about, oh, I'm so lonely, I need someone, the universe is just going to give you more of that lonely feeling. Whereas if you
Yeah.
go, oh my God, I'm so lucky, I have so much love in my life, I've got like my dog to hug, and I've got my family, and and I love myself, particularly important, then you're going to just be more magnetic, more exciting for other people because you're already operating at that frequency of love rather than, oh, I'm so miserable, no one will talk to me. And then you're like, no one will talk to me. Oh, I don't want to talk to her because she looks miserable.
Yeah,
She's like
like
radiating that, you know?
life isn't a reflection of what you want, it's actually a reflection of your assumptions. So
Yeah, yeah,
really look
yeah,
at what you crossed off and your new assumptions and start practicing it in the world. It's not just about writing it down, realizing, writing it down, crossing it off, choosing a new assumption, but then going and integrating that into daily
yeah,
life. And when you catch yourself with that old assumption, just go, well, how has that assumption served me in the past? And
yeah.
is that getting me to where I want to go?
I was going to ask that, um, but you already answered it. You know, what do you do when that keeps popping up? It's like that self-hate talk that you have in your mind. And on the lenses on this week, um, one of the ladies was saying how she was working a lot to not keep having that you know, that self-hate talk. And I said to her, do you know what? Think of it this way. So we've got the analogy, obviously, of how you might treat a baby. You wouldn't talk to a child like that. But let alone a child. If you saw another woman or a person your age or anyone out there in the world, half of the things that you say to yourself, most of the things you say to yourself sometimes in your mind, you wouldn't dream of ever saying that to someone else. And if you wouldn't say it to someone else, well, why should you say it to yourself? you know.
Don't say it to someone else. They're already saying it to themselves.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, but also
Well,
like don't
yeah,
say it
but
to yourself, you know.
it's not, yeah, why would we say it to ourselves? Because we believe that others don't have that and we do. And not that we want everyone to have negative self-talk. We actually want people to realize that that old negative self-talk isn't real. It's just how the child coped through
Yeah.
their
And
childish assumptions. Like as a child, we wanted to show something or we wanted to say something that we made up, and then we were told, well, that's not true. You just made that up. And then we learned that making stuff up is bad. And then we create an assumption to not share our excitement about our creativity, or that, oh, you can't make money doing that, or artists aren't,
yeah,
aren't, that's not a real job, or whatever it is we hear, we learn, we observe, all
yeah,
through our childish, our very young experience created those assumptions that somehow maybe we got told off by mom and dad because they were having a bad day, but we assumed, because a child always assumes it's about them. So they know
yeah,
how to survive, how to be, how to receive more love. So they would just assume, oh, I did something wrong, or I'm not worthy of love, or I'm not significant enough, I'm not important, I don't matter. And then that
mhm,
becomes, you don't matter. Who do you think you are? It isn't
yeah,
real because it's from the mindset of a child. It's a childish perspective that we're still walking around telling ourselves, without, and the parent probably never had the intention to actually say that or believe it. Either they're
mm,
repeating what they were told by their parents, or they're just dealing with their own survival. We make it
yeah.
about us.
Yeah, well, they're like
It's
really stressed about some adult things that we don't understand. And instead of being able to, um, you know, not put that emotion on us, they lash out when we're bothering them. In their mind, you're just bothering me. And that can sort of, it's not meant, but it can stifle creativity and imagination and self-belief in the child, even though it's definitely not meant. It's just that the adult is having a difficult day, doesn't really know how to manage that situation for themselves. And so they're
Yep.
like, just shut up, or I'm gonna knock your block in. And or, you go and stand in the corner for 10 minutes, and you're like, oh, I don't even know what I did wrong. But here I am.
It's
So
generational and cultural for sure. I
yeah,
think it's definitely cultural programming, societal programming, family, ancestral programming. It all plays a role. And our parents, they learned that they have to teach us how to be useful in society and how to make ends meet. So they're trying to talk reality to us by, yeah, don't do that because that's not realistic. You can't gonna you that's not gonna get you far in the real world, and I'm gonna tell you the truth about the real world. And they were
yeah, they
wrong.
do. And the thing is as well, it's often very well meant. It's not actually meant to be meant to make you feel bad. They're just trying to protect and support you to becoming an adult. And if you think about it, for generations and generations, children didn't often have long lives. Not many children made it to adulthood. So again, there's probably this fear that, parents they just really need to protect their children, which they do, obviously. But do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like it's
Now
this
they
whole
overprotect their children, and so it's
sometimes.
funny how generations are, they change. Like in my generation, I was just
Yeah.
talking about this with someone, is that in we had a public service announcement when we were teenagers, and
Mm.
it was for our parents, and it said, "It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?" Because in our generations, parents just says, "Go on outside and
Oh,
come back
same.
at
Yeah.
dark," right? And then that's how we were raised. And
Yeah.
now it's 10 o'clock. Oh, your child is still online. Right? So
Yeah.
it's very, very different how the generations changed. And I think hopefully the next generation will learn that we've kind of softened up as a society. Like, we don't really have real men anymore. And we need to get those men and their opposing thumbs to go and do some physical work.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, we can make them a bit too soft and too dependent on other people doing things for them. Um, but yeah, I feel like you need a balance, don't you? I mean, nowadays parents are like, oh, I don't know, where's my kid? Oh, it's okay. They've got a phone on them, even though they're like 6 years old. I can just track them. And I'm like, what? There's no way, like why? But yeah, in my time, we'd be like, I'm just going to the park, see ya. And then I'd
Yes,
be like
yes.
on my bike down to the other end of the city and miles away, cycling around for hours, not really caring. And then all the rules that you get from the parents are, just don't talk to any strangers and blah blah blah. And you go, okay, yeah, we'll follow those rules, and to keep safe. And that was enough. And I think part of the reason that parents are so much more coddling, I think is one of the words that I would call it, is because the news reports always focus on the times where children have been hurt or attacked or kidnapped, and something's
Yes.
happened to them. And then there's obviously more stabbings happening in schools and things. I'm sorry, my phone's going off there. And so parents then get into this fear mode where they feel like, oh, I don't know what I need to do. Oh, I've got to really manage that. And it's almost like that media coverage that it sort
Yeah.
of
Fear
inflates the
sells.
issue. Even
Fear
if you live
sells.
in a
Yeah.
town where it doesn't happen, your parents are still going to be freaking out that something might happen to my child. And a really good example of this in the UK, and I know you've probably got to go soon, is that the Madeleine McCann story, which is really tragic. The 4-year-old that was stolen from the sorry, I'm going to put my phone on silent. Stolen from her the villa that their parents and her were staying on holiday in Portugal. And in the UK, we got so much coverage of that, like 24/7 for months and months and months and months. And the amount of coverage that we got for what's happened was actually extreme. And it's almost like that's a kind of reprogramming. I don't want to sound
Yeah.
cynical,
Fear
but
sells.
it's that
Absolutely.
almost like, oh, it just worry about it, worry, because they want to raise a generation of kids who can't think for themselves, who do need like to be looked after completely, and they don't have any toughness about them. And that's what happens when your parents are like,
Yeah.
so overprotective that they don't allow children to learn and grow. And that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, fear sells is what we'll say. But, and we have to just strike a balance with the times we live in and uh, allow kids to be kids at the same time. So
Yeah, to
thank you,
play, to
Kelly,
learn,
so
to grow.
much. And
Yeah,
it all comes back to assumptions. If you're assuming that you're always in danger, you are. And if you assume that you are safe, you put out
yeah,
that energy, and that is everything is energy and vibration, as
yeah,
we say.
absolutely. It truly is.
Thank you so
Truly is.
much.
Thank you, Galit, for joining
Thank
me
you. I
today. And
enjoyed our
thanks for
talk.
everyone oh, sorry to talk over you there. Thanks for everyone if you managed to watch this. And yes, take care. So thanks, Galit, and
Thanks,
I will
Kelly.
speak to you soon. thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed our content, then please subscribe or check out our socials. I've been your host, Kelly Robinson, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Take care, much love, goodbye.